Hey, welcome to the Better Pleasure Podcast with Beau and Steve. This is June 2025. Going to be talking about Michael Tait, the frontman for the Newsboys, and all that's come out in the news concerning him and how it relates to the Bible, and discuss that on this episode. So you guys take care. But how you been?
Good, man. Good. Just just working.
I like that shirt, Gas Monkey.
Thanks. Yeah, I guess it used to be a show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's in Dallas. It's like a garage, and they do like hot rods and stuff. I just like the graphic.
Yeah, it looks cool. Super cool, dude.
Cool.
That's awesome. You look like you're like 32.
People tell me that all the time. I wish I felt 32.
I know.
I don't feel
How old
32.
are you?
49. Well, I'll be 49 this year.
Dude, you're almost 50.
Yeah, bro. Because you're like 5 years older than me?
Almost. I'm going to be 50.
You're like 4 years older than me.
53 in 3 weeks.
All right. You do anything?
No, but a week after, we're going to Texas to our place, to Rockport.
All right.
Going to help out the church and chill out on the beach a little bit and just have like some chill time.
Do you feel like you had like a midlife crisis? Or like a slump or something, you would say?
No, never a slump. I would say it's more of like more like an uptick. Like it's like I just wanted to get more into things.
Oh, yeah.
I think as the kids got to an age where they were, kind of on their own or, older, then I didn't get so much depressed as much as I just went through I want to kind of do the things I like to do.
Yeah.
And kind of ramp that up.
All right. Really? Okay.
I think I find just resting the body, like going to bed earlier, like funner.
Right.
I know that sounds weird, but by 9 o'clock, I'm like excited to go to bed.
All right.
I'm like, my body just feels more like it needs more recoup.
Yeah.
And so I need to sleep longer and make sure I get rest. And so I'm not so into the like, oh, let's stay up late and, watch movies and get all frisky kind of thing.
All right.
And it's like, it's different, because me and Sylvia have always had a very fluent sexual life together. So, but I think we just, I think I attribute it to like both my parents dying, just going through like harder things, transitional things.
Was that like super hard for you?
Yeah, I think it is because both my parents I was super close to. Me and my brother both. We enjoyed talking to our biological parents all the time. Super fun. We learned so much about recovery from them both. So our relationships were always like very recovery based, Jesus based, very focused on great conversations, deep conversations.
Did your parents like go suddenly? I know your mom had cancer, correct?
Yeah, my mom went suddenly. So my mom had brain, lung, and bone.
Oh,
and
my
so,
goodness.
Yeah, she went within a 6-month period of time, and it was kind of just a really rough, painful, kind of going out. My dad, on the other hand, had cancer for a long period of time and had emphysema. And so you know how that is, it's kind of like a slow burn, right? And so we kind of knew that, he's progressively getting worse. And so we had a lot of time with him a good 5 years, I would say, of really good stuff.
How old were they when they passed?
Both of them were 74.
Oh, okay. My parents are getting up there in age. Like I said, you're a few years younger than me. And, I can just see my parents are getting older, and I don't know. I know,
Yeah.
I mean, God willing, they still have many years on this earth, but I definitely see like my parents are getting older now. And it kind of just, I don't know, makes you look at life. And then I'm like kind of like middle-aged myself. And so like, I don't know, I wouldn't say like I'm having like a midlife crisis or anything, but you think about your own mortality more and things and what you have and haven't done with your life and
right,
stuff like that.
Yeah, and then you definitely got to deal with like, hey, I didn't do this. Do I still have opportunities to do something like that? Do I have the energy and the time,
Uh-huh.
the drive to do it? And 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 then kind of deal with the emotions if you can't,
Yeah.
and because we all have wishes, wants and desires and ambitions and
Yeah.
things like that, and sometimes it doesn't happen like you think it's going to happen. I think the beautiful thing about Jesus is that he who loses his life for my sake, will gain it. And
Uh-huh.
I think there's always that incredible hope that I haven't really lost anything
Mm-hmm.
by not reaching like a goal on the planet, because the goal really is just to follow God,
Yeah.
you know, and be okay in that. Like, am I okay in just doing the will of the Father?
And that's what I try to do. I try to always turn it back to that focus on that because, yeah, because like you talked about, you had these desires and these wants, these things you wanted to accomplish, things you thought would happen with your life, and you can get kind of discontent. And I just kind of gotta, turn it back to God and remember, like, God has a purpose for me, and God has a purpose for me. I just gotta stay content in that because it's very easy for me to get like, man, why didn't this happen? Why didn't that happen? I wanted things
Yeah.
to go this way, and they went right instead of left, and
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I see that. And I see that too with, even when I look at pornography and my relationship to porn, I see it very much attached to ambition
mm-hmm.
and, you know, uh, even like frustration,
Mm-hmm.
trying to deal with frustration or trying to deal with failure. And
So, like, would you say, like, you mean like self-medicating, kind of
yeah,
like I
very,
had a bad day,
yeah.
I need that dopamine hit, like,
Yeah, even though for me it doesn't come so much from a bad day as
mm-hmm.
much as I think just when I was young and I was in lust culture growing up,
Mm-hmm.
it was very exciting
Uh-huh,
and I had a lot of ambition. I had
uh-huh,
a lot of success as a guitar player,
uh-huh.
and it made me feel good. It gave me a lot of rapport
Mm-hmm.
with people at a young age, and I felt very proud of that.
Would you
And
would you say your identity was tied up in that?
oh yeah, totally.
Like I'm Beau the musician, and if I can't make music, like what am I here for? Like
Right.
I am no one without this.
That's how I thought forever, growing up.
Uh-huh.
For the period of growing up, and it wasn't until I gave my life to Christ that I knew I was trading up to something better, and I could let go, and I knew it was about forming another identity in something far greater than a piece of wood.
Do you still feel that like that pull,
All the time.
like all right.
Yeah, I still feel the pull all the time. I'm a very friendly guy, so I tend to so it makes me almost like want to be liked,
Mm-hmm.
and I can tend to roll that way. I don't do it like some guys my age will dye their hair white and you know what I mean, get all
Yeah.
the earrings going and
Yeah.
and they really extend
Uh-huh.
themselves, where you're like they're really trying hard,
Uh-huh.
and we see that we kind of like,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's a little scary, but I know that resides in me. Like
Uh-huh.
I don't quite go like that,
Uh-huh.
but I think like I still have all these, I have all these remembering and all these events that happened and all these, in a sense, accolades and these relationships and that were developed young. And a lot of my significance came from performance and
Uh-huh.
and that kind of thing and being good at it.
Yeah.
And so I think I've always wanted to please people, when you don't have parents that you feel like you could please because they're a mess
Mm-hmm.
at the time and you're not sure where your relationship is with them when you're growing up,
Yeah.
then sometimes pleasing peers becomes everything.
No, I hear you. Yeah, like yeah, definitely. Because I had like the same thing with like with my writing, like that, like that's what I want to do. Like if I can't be a writer, I'm nothing,
Hmm.
and that's how I got my I felt good about myself. It was like when I could give someone something and they give me praise for it, like oh this is good, or I got like in some published in some little magazine or something for my my writing and stuff, and that's where I got like my self worth for. And I understand that because like I felt like a lot growing up, a lot of my time like love was like based on performance. So like when you were performing, you felt loved,
Yeah.
and when you weren't performing, maybe you didn't feel as loved so much.
Right. Right.
And
It's
I mean, I know you got saved a lot younger than I did, and I was like kind of older, so I feel like maybe I have a lot more of those trappings still. Like I didn't get saved to my early 30s, so
yeah.
it was a lot of years of like this is what my life is based around and everything. And I feel like I still struggle with that a lot, like that feeling that pull on me, like
Yeah.
I want that still.
Yeah, and that's where I think like when I think of pornography, it's more emotional to me. There's like a, I've always like I've written blogs like why do people watch porn? Like
Uh-huh.
answering that question. And I remember I got this response from someone who was really upset at my blog because I said it's fun. And,
Uh-huh.
and I just put like I was just being as pragmatic as possible. Like why do we go to this? You know, and I was explaining just how there is an enjoyment.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have a familiar enjoyment to things,
Uh-huh.
and for me, growing up, I was a very happy kid to grow up and walk Sunset Boulevard and see all the people,
Uh-huh.
and to go into clubs and see what was happening. To me, that was very exciting,
Yeah.
and I looked up to people. I idolized people and all that,
Uh-huh.
and porn culture was a part of that,
Uh-huh.
and it was like infused in that world.
Yeah.
And so part of I think pornography to me was the pull of it.
Mm-hmm.
Even to this day, I have to always think through this
Yeah.
because the pull of it is it's very familiar.
Uh-huh.
It very much brings like a happiness to me. You know what
Right.
I mean? Um, and I always so it like all the porn that I've ever really watched has always mimicked what I've already seen, like what I've already been around.
Uh-huh.
You know, that's for me. That's how it's kind of hit me. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I have this source that I can look at, and it reminds me of everything that gave me joy in growing up. You
All
know,
right.
God, I remember, and because I grew up in San Fernando Valley,
Uh-huh.
some of these people I've seen.
Uh-huh.
You know, and some of them I did go to school with, and so there's like a weird aspect of familiarity,
Yeah.
to it all for me. Like okay, I lived right off of Burbank, so I'm familiar with that. I'm familiar with North Hollywood. I'm familiar with Chatsworth,
Uh-huh.
so. Even when the credits are showing at the end of something, I can look at it and go, "Oh, okay, I know where that's at." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's but I think when it comes to like being 50, I think there's a part of me that is afraid to let go
Uh-huh.
of that part of my world.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, I can understand that completely because that's why I feel like kind of like where I am with just like my sex life in general. I just feel like, man, like it's not there yet, but I feel like yeah, like, things are gonna start winding down soon. Like I gotta live it up while I can because I'm gonna be old and crusty before I know it, and nothing's gonna work.
Yeah.
The grinders aren't gonna grind anymore, like it says, and and then I'm just gonna be like,
Uh-huh. What am I going to be?
yeah, what am I? What am I?
Yeah.
There was always because there's always a lot of emphasis placed around that too when I was younger, like my sexual prowess, my conquest, like though that was like that's what made me feel like a man.
Hmm.
If if I could do this and do that and bed this woman and do that, like I got my self worth from that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, like if where I still like where am I going to be without that? Who am I without that?
Yeah. And it's scary,
Yeah, it's very scary. And
because
then it reminds me like yeah, like no, like like this was good. The better pleasure practice. This Jesus got to be the better pleasure.
right.
That's where I need to be looking for my satisfaction, not in all these other things,
Yeah.
because they're never gonna. Because none of that stuff ever left me feeling fulfilled. It was never enough. It was like great in the moment, and you got that little high, and then then it was on to the next thing. Like I need to get that fix again, like
Yeah.
because it's so short lived. You think it's gonna make if I can just if I can just get this chick to go out with me, everything's gonna be great. And then you get the girl, and then like a month later, I'm sick of her, and like I'm not happy. I thought that
Right.
was gonna make me happy, and it didn't make me happy.
Yeah, and I think what we do is, in life, you're scared of your demise, and that's what ultimately it is. I think in me is, there's the insecurity and the fear that grips you,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't, you're trying to stay alive, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and your sex life is a part of that. The way your active life is, what you can do actively. What happens when something happens and I can't do that, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and that's scary to me. Like I'm not going to be able to run. Like
Mm-hmm.
am I going to be able to? I was just reading, by the way, this lady who's 81 years old, in great shape, man, and she just talks about just staying focused on weightlifting and in a very disciplined and lightweight way, but
Uh-huh.
stay very and stretch and she's 81 and just doing so good. And I thought, man, that's so great that she just focused, because that's my fear is like, like, am I going to be able to ride my skateboard? And even though I'm 52, I still love to jump on a 42-inch board
Uh-huh.
and roll down the road, and I do, and I just jump on it and I go down the road, and I love feeling the breeze,
Uh-huh.
I like to be in a tank top when I do it. It's hot out here in
Uh-huh.
Arizona. You know what I mean?
Is it something about like recapturing your youth?
Yeah, I think it's just about being alive, like there's those are moments of joy. I think you try to relive moments of joy all the time,
Yeah.
like when something makes you happy and gives you joy, you want to experience it again.
Yeah.
And whether it's sex, sensuality, or whether it's a tree or a beach or
Mm-hmm.
the sun, the mountains, and the breeze, um, and I don't know, for some reason, I don't know what it is, skateboarding, riding BMX. I think very early on in life, when I was very young, I rode BMX bikes and
Uh-huh.
I did some competitions. But that was always fun, riding bikes in my neighborhood. I
Yeah.
loved that, like the wind and just kind of, with my friends. And I
Yeah. I mean
just,
that's like that's what we all did in the 80s. Like you get like five or six guys together,
yeah,
you get on your bikes and you're just gone. You're
yeah,
gone for like there's no cell phones or nothing. You're gone. No one finds you for like 4, 5, 6 hours. Like you went and visited an abandoned
yeah,
house. You smoked some cigarettes. You like took a BB gun, shot some bird. You like
yeah,
did all kinds of crazy stuff, and then you come home and your parents are like, "Oh, did you have fun? Yeah, we
yeah,
just rode around."
yeah. But just, I think the feeling of that, I'm a guy who has somehow uh, uh, encapsulates moments.
Uh-huh.
Like my brain tends to go, that was cool. Like, man,
Uh-huh.
that the way it felt was
Uh-huh.
amazing.
Uh-huh.
And so I tend to want to go those places, in all rights, I shouldn't ride motorcycles.
Uh-huh.
I've had serious multiple concussions through ice hockey.
Mhm.
I've had post concussion syndrome for 4 to 5 years at a time. Very rough brain.
Mhm.
I've damaged, my brain to times where if I were to do it again, it could really just damage. I'd have brain damage,
Mhm.
and so, in all rights, I shouldn't be on a motorcycle, especially ones that go really fast.
Uh-huh.
Um, but there's something that hits me about the breeze and the way things look, and
Is it the
you
danger
know, no, it's not so much the danger as much as I think the feeling and the visuals.
that I don't know because I know for some people it's like all about like courting death. I know
Yeah.
like I mean I don't drink anymore. When I was drinking, like I
Hmm.
used to go like I would like find like the roughest bars to like go drinking because like I wanted to like just
Make it
like
risky.
yeah something could happen here, something could pop off like, and I wanted. I, I just wanted that I can go hang with these people and these macho tough people and I can go drink beer with them and drink as much as I want with them and just to like I had something to prove, like I
Yeah,
like courting like that danger and that death,
well, check this out. Okay, I'm going to relate this in a weird way. So, I'm wondering if your pornography reflects that. This is why. Is
Mhm.
because My pornography's always been, I would say, pretty vanilla.
Uh
It's just like I said, it mimics Sunset Boulevard, it mimics San
huh.
Fernando
So
Valley
you're thinking like classic like
porn,
pornography
porno.
tropes.
Yeah, just super, boy, girl, that kind
Uh
of
huh.
thing. Maybe a little bit risky, but not much.
Uh
You know what I
huh.
mean? I mean, just pretty similar stuff,
Uh huh.
and it's always been that,
Uh
and
huh.
because I've never been a real risk. I've never been a guy who went like, man, I want to jump out of a plane. I want to bungee jump. I want to.
Uh
I've always been a little scared of heights, and just had a little fear mechanism in me.
Really? I
Yeah,
would never get because you like into motorcycles and all
yeah,
this stuff.
totally. And no, but I think what. So for me, like feeling is everything. Like things that feel familiar, things that I could feel kind of brush amongst my skin, seeing beautiful
Uh
things.
huh.
Growing up in Southern California, uh, I've seen amazing sunsets on the beach where I've just been out surfing, and it's just been unreal, and it's like your mind's blown,
Uh huh.
and trying to relive those moments, in skiing. How can I ski in a place that is beautiful and absolutely stunning? And,
Uh huh.
and they tend to be more risky, but I've trained, I
Uh
do
huh.
train, to ski more risky things.
Uh huh.
So it's not like I just put on the skis and go, I don't care, I'm going to conquer death,
Uh
you know?
huh.
Not that way. It's always very meticulous, like I got to get better, I
I
got to
think at a
train.
subconscious level there is something like I think there is
Yeah,
this courting.
maybe.
I
Yeah.
think that's a very masculine thing to want to like court death. I don't know why. I
Yeah.
think maybe
Yeah.
that's old school thinking
No,
mentality, but
yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe. And I mean, I'm not going to say that when I'm on the motorcycle, there is a aspect when I'm on a ZX10 anyway, a really fast bike. There's these moments where you're at like 130, and for a moment you're like, push it as fast as you know what I mean,
uh-huh.
just go, and you might die, and that's okay. It's like there's this thought that hits you,
Mhm.
and I don't get scared of that thought.
Uh-huh.
So I know, and that's a little risky
Uh-huh.
because it means you could potentially push, even more, and go, and then my friend, I saw he was at the racetrack the other day. He rides a Ducati Panigale V4,
Uh-huh.
so very fast bike, and he's up to 175, 180 at the track,
All right.
and I'm looking and I'm watching his YouTube, clip.
Uh-huh.
He's got the camera
On his
GoPro on his
helmet,
bike,
yeah.
yeah, on his bike, and it's looking at his speedometer,
Uh-huh.
and I'm just like, oh my gosh, he's cranking, but he's in
Mhm.
a safer environment. He's on a track. He's going straight. He
Mhm.
can lay it out, but even talking to him at church, he comes to the church, and,
Uh-huh.
and I'll say, dude, what was that like? And, he talks about that fear and trying to overcome it and deal with it because his
Uh-huh.
bike can go another 20 miles per hour.
Oh, you might as well have wings at that point. Just fly.
Wait, no, 30 miles per hour. So he can get up to 200.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. And then MotoGP guys, when you watch Mark Martin and these MotoGP guys, they're going, 210 miles per hour on the straights, 215 on a motorcycle.
No,
I mean,
that's
they are
crazy.
humming. And then they have to come to these crazy, crazy turns. So
Uh-huh.
they got to slow it down. The back wheels kicking out. The whole bike is like shifting, and they're laying it down
Uh-huh.
that low with their knee touching the ground on the turn.
So why do you think guys do things like that?
I think, no doubt, you're right. It,
I
it
think
is.
I think there's the courting death, and I also think it's like to impress chicks.
Yeah, totally.
Why else? Like I'm a strong believer that's like why civilization exists because guys just want to impress chicks. They're like, I'm gonna go build this. I'm gonna ride this motorcycle as fast as I can. I'm gonna build the world's tallest building. I'm gonna ride a bull. I'm gonna do all this crazy stuff just because it sounds cool. And you can be like, hey, I fight bulls.
Yeah, no, I think there's a part of all that, I do. I mean, because we grow up thinking that way, how can I ride my bike cool? How can I look cool? How can I wear cool clothes? Half of the reason why we wore Ozzy Osbourne shirts in the 80s and Iron Maiden shirts and stuff like that was because it was to look cool. It was
Yeah.
to, I mean, we love the music too, but it was all about the look too,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, I have no doubt that that's all a part of it. There's something about it, where again, the fear, coming back to fear, is losing all that,
Hmm.
losing all that drive, and wanting to be liked and you know, wanting to ski in a way. Like I love skiing really good to where people on the lift are shouting.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Like
when
go Bo or like
no, they
shouting
don't know
what?
they don't know me,
Uh
but
huh.
they're hooting and hollering
Uh huh.
because they see me ripping down a
Yeah.
crazy run, and they're admiring
Right.
me skiing.
So is that
And
vanity?
I think a part of it is where a part of it you can easily take it to vanity, where you can easily take it to where that's the utmost motivation
Right.
of what you're doing.
Yeah, I think it's very fine line
Yeah,
because it makes me think of like in Chariots of Fire. You've seen that movie, right? With
yeah,
Eric Little, and he tells his sister's trying to get him to go on the mission field to China, and he says, I believe God called me to go to China, but at the same time, God made me fast, and when I run, I feel His pleasure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think there's that coming back to reality of really what this is about.
Because like when I got saved, like I like stopped riding for like 10 years
Hmm.
because it was just so much like caught up in like my identity in that, and I was like, I can't. This is like an idol in my life,
Yeah,
so I just stopped doing it
yep.
altogether. Like I'm not gonna, and everything that I was writing was very like ungodly, anyways.
Hmm.
And I didn't. I like had a yeah. I just stopped writing for 10 years. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And then slowly, I started kind of like picking it back up and like trying to like. There was like still a lot of that old voice that wanted to come out, and it still does. I feel at times, and I kind of got to like constantly kind of redirect it and
Yeah,
kind of make it more God honoring.
yeah, totally. I'm doing the same thing, where even though I find it cool, this ability, this attraction that people might have to my guitar playing or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
right? There might be something that I go, oh man, that's cool. Because of my walk with Jesus, because I read the scriptures, I understand that there is a vanity part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand there is a this isn't going to last part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that this can't be what it's about. And so I've learned how to redeem things far better. So when I'm going down the hill, I'm thinking about God.
Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking about, man, dude, this is what you created, this amazing mountain,
Yeah.
and things like that, and just being thankful and filled with gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Um, hanging with my brother skiing and just being talking to him in beautiful ways. That becomes the greater,
Mm-hmm.
than everything else. The skiing good and and in a way that maybe is pleasurable to even other people becomes almost secondary,
Uh-huh.
to just all the real reasons why you're doing it now because of your relationship with Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I find. And it's just like sex too. You're no longer doing sex just to do sex, right? It's no longer about the vanity part of it. It's
God
no
willing.
right, yeah, yeah. It's no longer just about those things, but now God comes into your mind
Mm.
and you're thinking about, hey, how can I glorify God in this? You
Mm-hmm.
know, God doesn't say, hey, stop. He's not saying, hey, don't ski, don't have sex, don't
Uh-huh.
play guitar, but he's saying, hey, let's do it for a different purpose and a different reason.
Yeah.
And so, you could fear, getting older is always, I think, a big fear for a lot of us, and people always say, well, Beau, you're not really old, so, don't talk that way.
Yeah, I'm tired of hearing that. People are like, "Oh, what do you mean like 50's a new 30?" I'm like, "No, 50's the same 50 it's always been. It's not
Yeah,
it's not
totally.
the new 30."
Yeah, and I mean, it's 50. I mean, and it is, I don't know, it's midlife for sure. And, your kids are getting old. Mine are. I'm
Yeah.
31 this year, my firstborn. And
Wow, really?
31, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so you know you got a kid who's 31. I mean,
Uh-huh.
and so yeah, you know there's a lot of thoughts, and I think you know I when I go back to pornography, I think one of the reasons is probably for me a lot of fear.
Mhm.
Like it is something that I can control. It is something I can easily see,
Mhm.
um, and it's familiar,
Mhm.
and there is a happiness to it,
Uh-huh.
and all that drives. It moves me in there. So I have to kind of reevaluate and go, hey, you know, I don't need to go back to Beau being happy,
Uh-huh.
in Sunset Boulevard, and just that makes I don't have to go
Yeah.
back there.
Yeah.
I can be happy with, what I have here, and I can be learn to be content. Um, and that's a difficult passage, right?
Yeah, that yeah, I mean just like yeah, even like take pornography out of it. Like I feel like the same way like I want to like just put on my like albums from the 90s and just like throw on my Nirvana and have my Soundgarden and just be like, yeah, man, those were the days, man, the
Totally.
90s. And I catch myself like talk like, no, you guys don't understand. Like talking to guys at work, younger guys like in their 20s,
Yeah.
early 30s, like, no, bro, the 90s. You don't understand how cool the 90s were. Let me
Yeah.
explain to you what it was like.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what am I doing? Like,
Yeah.
I need to learn how to be present and content now and not thinking of the former things and how great it was in the past. Like I want to go back.
Yeah.
I want the leeks and the onions, when I
Yeah.
was in bondage in Egypt,
Yeah.
just remembering the good things and romanticizing it, and not remembering
Yeah.
the hangovers and the broken hearts and all the other stuff that came along with it.
Yeah, totally. And that's it. It's kind of like a living in an illusion, right? You're like, I'm living in an illusion. Was there good times in my past? Yeah. Did I have fun? Yeah. But I had to find fun because I didn't have a good family,
Hmm.
you know. So I had to find my version of fun. And I think a lot of us young people growing up in the 80s and 90s had to do that.
Hmm.
Our families were a little reckless, and things were really loosey goosey, you know, and we had to find something that made us happy. Um, and, and so we you know, try to find that when we get older,
Yeah.
too. But we have to realize that it's not gonna, it's an illusion, right? It's like, there were a lot of things messed up,
No. Yeah.
that were going on at Sunset Boulevard, and a lot of people were abusive and abused, and you know, I remember, being at a friend's house, and we had strippers come in, and and they were like porn chicks, like chicks you've seen in porn, and because we were in the valley and that's where we lived,
Hmm.
and and they were so stoked that they got the best chicks coming in. You know what I mean? There was two of them, and they were so happy it wasn't going to be this B budget stripper, that comes in. But and it was amazing. I mean, they had amazing in the sense that it was like so professional.
Uh-huh.
It was like the pro house stripper.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a bodyguard, and I mean, it was like you ain't messing with these ladies.
Yeah.
And but those when you grow up like that with those kind of vibes,
Hmm.
and you're not being sexual with them,
Uh-huh.
but all that's there, all that sensuality's there. You tend to, want to replicate, moments like that,
Yeah.
because those are like they're exciting times, you
Uh-huh.
know, and yeah. So, but my point is that if I were to interview those ladies today and say like, hey, what was that like in your life?
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking 9 out of 10 they're gonna be like, that sucked.
Yeah, I wonder. I wonder what they would say.
They'd be like, that whole era sucked. It's like we had to do this and we had to do that to make money and we had to do this. And my family sucked, and you know what I mean? It was,
Yeah, I don't know. Because I
yeah,
feel like sometimes when there's like a certain level of brokenness, you don't even realize if you're still like if you don't get out of it and you look back like, yeah, that was like, yeah, it was crazy, what we had to do back then, a lot
yeah.
of crazy times, but they're not like, yeah, that sucked. They're just kind of like, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
No, and I no, I concur. I was just at a memorial like a year and a half ago, probably in Southern California, and a lady came up to me. It was a lot of people from high school,
Uh-huh.
and a lady came up to me, and the way she talked about her intimate world
Uh-huh.
growing up, she joked about it and made fun of it, and
Uh-huh.
and all in positive jest,
Yeah.
and it made me a little uncomfortable because I was just
Uh-huh.
like, like I don't know if that was good, like at all. You know what I mean? And like the way you're portraying this was like it was awesome and everything like that. But I'm like, I was so I think you're right. There's, if a person hasn't, you know, moved outside of that,
Yeah.
and gone and had a spiritual, you know, awakening, man, with Christ, and their eyes are open and they go, man, that what really was going on back
Yeah,
there?
because I did lots of stuff, and I thought it was super cool. And for many years, I thought it was super cool. It wasn't until I got saved and I look back now and I'm like, man, what was I doing? What was I thinking? I can't. It's just like, wow, it's like you become a new man, and I really did like. Not even to say that like, oh, that stuff doesn't still have some kind of appeal to me,
Yeah,
because I can't be like, oh well, yeah, that's so gross and I would never do that again.
yeah,
God willing, I'll never do it again.
yeah,
But now I'm just like, what was I? Why did I do that? Why? Like that was so messed up. Like,
yeah, yeah, totally.
yeah, a lot of remorse and kind of sadness. Like,
Yeah. So now I just try to take it day by day and learn to be content today, be thankful for my spouse,
hmm
thankful for the life that we have together, um, and try to put kind of the past in a better perspective, um, for me. But it has been a challenge. I mean, I think I've just had so many experiences too that it's taken me a long time to, work through all those experiences.
yeah.
And, you know,
I just recently read it. Well, it's probably been a couple of years now by George Whitfield. He's one of the Puritans.
yeah,
He
yeah.
wrote this book called The Jewel. I think it's called The Jewel of Christian Contentment.
Mm.
And I was like, those Puritans are like on another level.
Yeah, what'd you get out of that?
Just like, wow, I'm even worse than I thought I was. Like these, I mean, these are like Puritans, so these are like hardcore people,
Yeah,
and they're just like, yeah, and I'm like, oh man, like they're like struggling on another level.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm over here, they're like, yeah, like I just need to be content with like living in a log cabin with one candle. And I'm like, what? I only got 3 HBOs. This sucks. Why does God hate me?
No, totally,
Yeah.
totally. But it's okay. I know we're gonna all, I know we're all gonna get sick, or we're gonna pass away, or something's gonna happen, and I think you do realize that as you get older, that's all around the corner. Um, and then you're just learning to live by grace every day. I mean, it's funny. It's like I've been a Christian now, what, 36 years, 37 years,
Mm,
and it's still every day is the same. Meaning every day is the same focus.
yeah.
It's like the focus is on Jesus. The focus is on his work for me. The focus is on his grace and his love for me. The focus is on confessing my sins to him. You know, that kind of thing, receiving healing. It's very simple. It's like the same things. It's not like you get 36 years down the road in your Christian life and
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
Cause yeah, you think like you'll be like a Jedi master, and
Right,
you'll be
right.
walking in this rarefied air and nothing will touch you. But like, no, like the struggle is real. It's like every day, and it's like
Yeah.
the refining just gets finer and finer
Yeah.
now, and it's like I just feel like he reveals even more to you. Like I mean, me personally, as I can say is like I think like, oh, I get this area cleaned up, and I'm gonna be awesome, and you get it cleaned up, and then he reveals this and this and this.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh man, like I'm like it's worse than I even thought.
Right.
I'm more messed up than I even thought.
Yeah.
I think it's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you put that too, that it's worse than we even thought. Because I think that's, what King David realized, and, that famous Psalm, Psalm 51, when he's talking and he talks about, cleanse me, and he's talking about, renew the right spirit within me, and he's cleanse me of my sin, my
Hmm.
secret sins, and these sins that are in me, and he just realizes more and more and more, about the depth of his sin, and how it affects everything,
Hmm.
and his need for saving. There's no doubt that's why he was a man after God's own heart, because he was a guy who understood that the need for saving, he
Hmm.
understood the need for grace. He always says, exalt your mercy, meaning be merciful to me. I
Yeah, and he struggled like all the way up to the end. Like
All the way up to the
very,
end.
like that one guy I can't remember his name that he let go. What was his name? The one that was like cursing him when he came back
Oh,
from war, and he's like,
yes.
just let him go because maybe this is from God. Maybe God sent this guy to bother me. Maybe I need this in my life right now.
That's what King David says.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then at the end of his life, he's like, "Hey, remember that guy? Go back and kill him, all right? Because he's
Yeah.
going to be a problem for you." It's like, whoa.
Yeah, and King David had that kind of reputation where people were like, you're talking about the guy who kind of
I can't think of his name
yeah,
right now.
sees King David, and starts kind of cussing him out.
Yeah, saying like, "This is for what you did to the house of Saul,
Yep.
and you have all this coming, you
You're just a
dog."
yeah,
Yeah,
he
he's
just
like
calls
throwing. I
a
think he starts throwing rocks at him, if I
he
remember
does.
correctly.
And King David, instead of killing him at the moment,
Yeah,
says, "Hey, perhaps
yeah, he's like
God is
walking in the spirit at that
yeah,
time.
he's like perhaps God is using this dude to punish me."
Yeah,
Because he was aware that he wasn't, doing the right things. He
uh-huh.
was he was pretty volatile of a guy. You know, yeah. And so those bring me a lot of peace. I know we were gonna talk a little bit about Michael Tait today too.
Yeah, that was a crazy article.
Yeah, I mean, the Newsboys are famous. DC
Yeah,
Talk's famous. I personally
uh-huh.
was not a DC Talk fan or a Newsboys fan.
I had never heard of him
Okay.
until so I started asking my wife about him.
Yeah.
She said, "Oh yeah," because my wife she grew up in the church. She's like, "Oh
Okay.
yeah, we used to jam out to them. Yeah,
Yep.
them and Jars of Clay
Yeah,
and
Jars of Clay. I remember. I like them a little more,
yeah,
but DC Talk was like kind of an early rap group.
yeah." I went and
Um,
listened to a couple songs to kind of get a feel for what they were
yeah,
about.
kind of rocky, rappy,
Yeah, kind of like that what,
dancey.
new metally type thing, like Limp Bizkit type,
Yeah.
rock and rap mixed together fusion type thing.
Yeah, so that was them, and then Newsboys is just more, I think, more like a pop rock kind of
Hmm.
stuff. I definitely was not a Newsboys guy, but Michael Tait was a famous is a famous, Christian singer,
Yeah.
and yeah, to read about the allegations was stunning that came out in the news recently about kind of a 20-year stint of
Yeah.
sexual, what would you call it? Just abuse, I guess.
Yeah. 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 It was a
Impropriety.
Yeah, I like that word better because they kept. Yeah, I just like what the guy did was wrong, no doubt, undoubtedly, but I feel like they kept trying to like trump up the charges on him a little bit.
Hmm.
That's just my opinion. Your
Yeah,
mileage may vary,
yeah,
but that's I was like, okay, like yeah, what he did was completely wrong, like completely wrong. But they were trying to almost make him sound like a rapist. I felt like, and just
yeah,
really like, and the guy admitted it at the end of the article. What he did, he's like, yeah, I did all that sin. What I did was sin.
yeah. And that was his confession was awesome.
It
I
reminded me
mean,
of
his.
like the Harvey Weinstein thing, kind
Mhm.
of, because a lot of these guys they openly admit like he was famous, So yeah, things seemed kind of off, but I kept going around.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
So I was like, okay, then you straight up in the article admit that like I thought he could help me with my career and do things for my career. So you danced with the devil and you got burned, and now 20 years later you're kind of sour grapes about it because you're. That's the way. I mean, maybe it's just me being really harsh, but that's the way I took the article
Yeah.
because like there was a progression, and I didn't like that either. They kept saying that he groomed these people. These were guys in their 20s, early
Yeah.
20s. These weren't
Yeah,
children.
they weren't groomed.
Yeah, and they kept saying, "Oh, he was grooming me. He was grooming me." And reading his behavior, that seemed like kind of like secular courting behavior to me.
Yeah.
Like that's how you like. Oh well, we first would hang out, and then he kind of like put his arm on my. And I was like, okay, that's what you do. Like when you're like,
Yeah, when you're in the world, this is
yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
very normal.
yeah. You go to the
Yep.
movies, and okay, maybe you just have you watch the movies, and maybe the next time you put your arm around the girl at
Yeah.
the movies, and the next time you try to kiss her. That's not. I don't consider that grooming. I consider that's just like progression. I took her to the movies last time. She didn't seem to mind me putting my arm around her. Now I'm gonna see. And every time they rejected his advances, he backed off and said like, "Okay, sorry, my bad." So I was like, they kind of. What he did was completely wrong. I don't want to make it sound like it isn't, but I
No.
felt like they were kind of demonizing him almost, making it worse than.
Well, and a lot of people in the Christian world, pastors, people, they have not lived um incredibly worldly lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like and a lot of them haven't dated a lot of people, haven't been out there doing stuff. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes things are like, whoa, and then this sounds like Hollywood, and
Mm-hmm.
they kind of construct this thing.
Uh-huh.
Um, for those of us that have grown up in the world and a lot of experiences, I could see what you're saying, where it's not like he's doing anything different than many people. You
Uh-huh.
know, the bummer is that you know Michael Tait is a believer in Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
That's the bummer. Is that the drinking.
That's what really surprised me is how much
Yeah,
they're talking about the drug use and the drinking, and then the people were like, "But this happens like in the Christian music
yeah,
scene,"
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I was like,
Totally.
"What?"
Yeah, totally.
I was like, "That was what really surprised me. Not so much his actions because nothing really surprised me what people do,
Yeah,
but that there's this whole Christian industry,
culture.
worship music, and they're like, it's like, oh yeah, they get drunk and get
Play
crazy,
darts.
yeah, do cocaine and stuff," and I'm like, "What?"
Go skinny dipping. That was like a
Yeah,
normal thing.
that's the other thing that I was like, if I'm with a bunch of dudes and someone's like, "Hey, bro, let's go skinny dipping," I'm like, "Yeah, I don't think so."
Yeah, I mean, even I grew up with parents that did skinny dipping
Uh
and stuff
huh.
like that. But in the 80s and 90s, and what I remember growing up, in kind of more of a heavy metal culture,
Hmm.
like there would be no male skinny dipping.
Yeah, no, like I'm not saying skinny dipping, but it was like we got some guys, we got some girls, and we're like, "Let's go skinny dipping." We're like, "All right." It wasn't like a bunch of dudes. We're like,
Getting in a spa.
"Yeah, hey, let me massage your back while we're like, no, bro, that ain't gonna happen."
Yeah, yeah, that definitely wasn't my scene at all. I mean, dude, I would have got popped in the face so hard, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, we had dudes that would just throw down on that stuff. So it's like that was definitely different, and I think that's what kind of saddened me the most too was, just the culture. They talk about the Christian culture. It's like, yeah, this is just how it kind of rolls, and that's kind of what we learned. Is
Yeah.
that there's
And
kind of
they didn't seem upset about it.
no,
They were like, "Yeah, it's just what happens." I'm like, "What do you mean that's just what happens?
yeah,
We shouldn't be so nonchalant about this. Like
yeah.
that shouldn't be acceptable where we're just like, yeah, that's what happens."
Yeah, because you know obviously the alcohol put those 22-year-olds in positions, right? They
Hmm.
drank, they
To the excess.
yeah, to the
They were talking
excess. They
about
said, yep,
from until 6 a.m. in the morning. They started
yeah,
drinking, and they're drinking till 6 a.m. in the
yeah, and they're
morning.
spinning, and they're needing to rest and sleep, and that's right. They shouldn't have been fondled, and I hate to say this, but I grew up in a world where that was so normal. Like it really was. Like getting people drunk and fondling them. I mean, that's stuff I did in elementary school.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
yeah,
I can
yeah.
think back to when I was in elementary school, getting hammered with friends and trying to, get with their sister or something like that. And, I'm a little kid, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, that is worldly culture for sure. It's a bummer that, many people in the Bible have succumbed to that.
Mm-hmm.
Lot gets ripped, and twice, 2 nights in a row, and he got fondled.
Yeah.
You know, and Lot was a righteous dude, from what we read. I mean, so it's really interesting. You have kind of mimicking things in the Bible, where people get hammered and they get taken advantage of sexually,
Yeah.
and things happen, and we're paying for it today. I mean, we have a Middle East that's crazy due to thank you Lot, thank you Esau. You know what I mean? Thank you Abraham, and all the different uh, uh, sexual behaviors
Uh-huh.
that happened,
Mm-hmm.
and created different people groups, and it just grew, and here you go. And God even said, dude, there's going to be war, dude, between, Ishmael's going to be like an untamed animal.
Yeah, it'll be a wild ass of a man. I think it says in
Yeah.
the King James.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And so, and then, the descendants of Lot's daughters, have always been the kind of a ancestry of enemies to Israel,
Mm-hmm.
and battle upon things down the line, and it's just in Esau as well and his descendants, and so it's this isn't new. I mean, I
No.
guess that's what I'm saying is like this isn't new. I was really glad to read the confession um, that he talked
Yeah,
about.
I was like that too. I wish what I would have seen is because there's three different men that came forward. I would have liked to see a little more accountability on their part
Yeah,
and what they were doing. And I'm not one to blame the victim, but they put themselves in these circumstances,
yeah,
and then they want to, pull an Adam. It's the woman you gave me.
yeah,
They did it. They don't like. Well, I was courting fame. I made an idol out of this guy. I was drinking. They had their own list of sins going on too, but none of that was addressed in the article.
yeah. It would be like me. I remember going to a party and getting pretty loopy, and I'm a teenager, and this girl who I know it tends to be like the rock star of chicks,
Mm-hmm.
in the high school, and she's been around and everything like that. And she's like, Bo, let's go back to, I got a place. Let's go back to my place and this kind of thing. And I know, like when she says that,
Mm-hmm.
like what the deal is.
Uh-huh.
And I'm a teenager, and I know what she's saying.
Uh-huh.
Like, and these dudes, like you can read like what I'm saying is you can read
Yeah.
the room. Like you
Uh-huh.
can read how people are behaving, what they're like,
Uh-huh.
eye contact, how they vibe themselves, what their vibe is like. You
Yeah.
can kind of read how things are going.
Yeah.
And when this girl said, "Hey, Bo, da 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 da, let's go," I knew exactly what was gonna happen,
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and it would be weird for me to blame her,
Yeah.
to be like, well, she's the one who's kind of the outspoken, dominant girl.
Yeah.
She's the one who's the rock star girl.
Uh-huh.
It's like it's her fault. I was the one that was kind of the more insecure dude.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's not her fault. I knew exactly kind of where I was, like what I
Uh-huh.
was,
Yeah.
and of course, alcohol is a number. It numbs you a little bit to where
Yeah.
you can kind of move in directions you might not normally move in.
Yeah. Yeah. Big time.
And so yeah, it's like it would be like me blaming these people and be like,
Uh-huh.
it's their fault. They shouldn't have done that. she shouldn't have kissed me. She shouldn't have, I didn't tell her to kiss me,
Mm-hmm.
like she just did it,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, like you said, there's the vibe.
Yeah.
Like, because they say in there, like, oh, like, yeah, he would give me looks, and I thought it was funny.
Hmm.
Like, you start, like, connecting the dots. Like, yeah, maybe the first time he gave you the look, you're like, okay, that was kind of weird. But then, like, the second and third time, and then he's, like, rubbing your shoulder. Like, you start, like, oh, okay,
Dude,
this
wait,
guy has
hey,
other motives.
hey, dude, when you're in a hot tub, and some dude grabs your back and starts rubbing it,
Oh, no. No.
like what was weird is he said, like, hey, I come from a family of like
Yeah, he
we
said that.
massage
I
each
think he
other.
was like trying to like make excuses for himself. Like I said, if this was like a little kid, if this was like a 10-year-old, 12, like a 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old kid, and like I met this rock star and this is going on, I can be like, oh yeah, this dude took advantage. But this guys were like 22 years old. Like, and I understand, like, these are probably like church kids, and they're a little more sheltered than
Yeah.
probably me or you were.
Yeah.
But still, like, you pick up on those cues. I think those are kind of like innate, God given cues that
Yeah.
everyone's like, oh, okay. Like, I just thought they wanted to be friends. There's something else going on here. But then you keep putting yourself, and one of them says, like, I thought he could do stuff for me.
Yeah.
I was working in the music biz. I want to be in the music business. Like,
Yeah. This is how you
and
get
that's
in.
that's why it reminded me of the Harvey Weinstein, because these chicks are like, yeah, he called me up to his office and he wanted sexual favors and I did it because I wanted the part. Like, okay then, like, what you did it for the part.
Yeah.
That's why what he did was wrong. Harvey Weinstein was completely wrong, and he used his power and influence to take advantage of these people. But at the same time, then they want to turn it into rape. And like, well, I felt I had to do this. Like, no, you could have said, like, you know what, I'm gonna walk out of this office. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
down to Denny's and become a waitress. I don't need to be a movie star if this is the cost.
Yeah.
But no, you made an idol out of this fame, and now you're regretful about it. And I think you and Peter have talked about that before. Like, in our culture now, everything's got to become rape
Yeah.
because we're so morally defunct. We don't have words for what this is, and so it's like, well, if something wrong happened, it must have been rape. If
Yeah.
I feel bad about it now, they must have raped me. Not
Right.
I sobered up and now I'm like, what did I do?
Yeah. Instead of just looking at personal responsibility, and I think a lot of us in the '80s, there was a lot of grooming and there was a lot of rape that went on, and it was undetected. No one said anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a lot of us that just walked into areas that we knew weren't good,
Yeah.
and we participated in things that we are guilty and shameful of. And we've tried to deal with those emotionally, and we haven't done a good job, you know. And I think for a lot of those guys maybe in that article, they themselves, have had to probably wrestle with, what was I doing? Like,
Mm-hmm.
man, what did I do? Like, why did I do that? Why couldn't I not see what was happening?
Mm-hmm.
And or why did I make bad choices? In those moments, because I mean, when someone's rubbing your back, you can rubbing your foot. The other one was rubbing a
Yeah.
foot rub, but
Yeah.
like, I mean, it's hard for me to think that you don't understand uh, sexual movements, like sensuality.
Yeah.
Like the moves of it.
Yeah.
And the vibe of it, and that you would just be like, hey, this is what my dad did.
Yeah.
Well, it's different if your dad's like, hey son, and
Yeah.
giving you a little back rub while you eat a steak or something.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? He's just like, hey, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like you're in baseball. I could think of like when I was in baseball, and my dad
Mhm.
might, come behind me and just like
Uh-huh.
rub my back,
Yeah.
like 20 seconds. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Uh-huh.
And just like, hey, dude, have a good game. But I don't ever remember my dad like getting out lotion or doing some weird rub on me. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Whereas he's just all, hey, what I mean? I don't know. I mean, that to me would be weird.
Well,
You know?
yeah, it was weird. And then like, yeah, well, they're like, well, it's kind of just like, locker room antics.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like, well, I don't know. I didn't play a lot of sports. I wasn't in a lot of locker rooms, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know what happens. I mean, I took gym in high school and I knew what happened, but I mean, I see like people on TV, like they slap each other on the butt, baseball players and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, that's weird to me.
Yeah, well, that. You know what it reminded me of when I read that is kind of the idea of like Roman hot baths or Sparta's gymnasiums,
Uh huh.
where there was a lot of kind of homosexual acts,
Yeah.
in those contexts.
Uh huh.
When I heard that like locker room stuff, I thought like, you get a bunch of dudes together too long. And they were saying that,
Uh huh.
we're getting together, we're bored, da 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 da. And I mean, I've heard this in the military, like
Uh
first,
huh.
we're in counseling where people have engaged in homosexual acts.
Out of boredom?
N- Yeah, basically in the military, where they fall into some kind of homosexual act, and they're just kind of with a bunch of dudes all the time.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's been a long stereotype in the Navy. They're
yeah,
out at sea on this boat.
yeah, and I mean I've heard that personally
Uh
from
huh.
people, so I take it as like okay, face value. Yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah, I believe it happens, but I don't think that it's like, well, there was no girl. Like, no, like that seed was already there. Like,
Yeah, there's something that going.
yeah, like I don't, yeah, I don't know.
Well, things. You start hanging out in a particular context. I was sharing this with one of the pastors here the other day, but Solomon. I was using Solomon as an example, a guy who had all these women, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he also had a lot of parties. We know from the book of Ecclesiastes that he denied himself no pleasure.
Uh
This dude partied like no other. He was a rapper. I
huh.
mean, he was a guy who could sling out lyrics, and I would imagine he was like today he was the famous singer, songwriter,
Mm-hmm.
rapper, R&B dude, and he was super charismatic, and he had everything, money, fame. I mean, he was just the dude.
Yeah.
And when you get dudes like that, I think of um um I want to say, is it Puff Daddy
Yeah.
or
P Diddy.
P Diddy? Yeah, I want to say, you sometimes, I was telling the pastor that there's like this little fine line that gets like muddled, in sex
Mm-hmm.
culture, where it's like when you start opening up your world to a lot
Uh
of
huh.
different sexual things, pretty soon, like it becomes muddled. Like and we've talked about this before, right? Where
Yeah.
friends get involved, people get involved,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, like I got to imagine Solomon just like we don't even know half of that dude's madness,
Uh huh.
because it's just there. I mean, he has everything there for the madness to just get really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Worshipping pagan gods, sexual deities, prostitute deities that want you to engage in some kind of temple
Uh
prostitution.
huh.
I mean, everything that could mean male, female, male, male, women, women, five, this, six, that. I mean, it could be all over the board,
Uh huh.
you know? And that's hard for us to sometimes understand. Like, I think people, when they read the Bible and they read about the sexual lives of these people, they
Mm-hmm.
tend to almost sanitize it.
Yeah.
They tend to think like, where a guy like me who has seen not all, but has seen his fair share growing
Mm-hmm.
up of a lot of deviance,
Mm-hmm.
I tend to read it and I go, "Woo, I can see what's going on." Like
Mm-hmm.
I can go, "Okay, here's the context of what is in this guy's life." I can put the dots together.
Okay. Why do you think Christians are so like scared to do that? To put the connect the dots. Why are
Well,
they so reluctant? Because I've had like conversation, like I was in this Bible study group, and then we were going over the life of David, and it gets into David's life, and he's on his deathbed essentially, and they bring that young girl in to keep him warm, and they were like, "Yeah, we don't really know what's going on here." I was like, "Well, I think I have an idea what's going on here," and they're like, "Oh, what's going on?" I'm like, "They were seeing if he was still virile. They wanted to see if he could you know, if we bring this young beautiful girl into his room and nothing happens, this means he's put a fork in him. He's toast. He can't lead us anymore. He's, no, that's not what's happening. And they didn't want to believe it. I was like, he had how many wives? He was the king. You're telling me he didn't have a stack of blankets to the roof? Like, why did they bring this young girl in? Why would it specifically say they brought this young girl in to keep him warm?
Yeah.
They just didn't want to believe it. They no, the Bible says David was a man after God's own heart. And I said, yes. So what does that mean? What does it mean to be a man after God's own heart? Because like there was no reason. He had tons of concubines and wives. Why did they have to bring this young girl into him on his deathbed to see what would happen?
Yeah.
And they just didn't want to accept it.
Yeah, I think there's a part of the Christian world that there are people that just don't know, even like they're just unaware of culture and depravity culture, and that, maybe that's good. They're just not aware of it all, and they really have never lived it themselves. They've never experienced those things. They've seen some things on TV or different shows, but it's kind of like it's them out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That doesn't happen in the real world.
It doesn't have. Yeah, totally. And I think a part of it is that, and that, to me, that seems like most of the people I've talked to, that's it. Is they just don't know. Like, have you ever hung out with a bunch of friends, who are going to have sex with a bunch of girls? And most people go, no, I've never done that. I've never hung out. Have you ever hung out at a rave where you have hundreds of kids that are very sensual? Most people haven't done that.
Yeah.
And those kind of things. So they can't, I don't think they can put the dots together too much. Like I tend to put the dots together a lot when it comes to these kind of sexual things. Like, even I'll give you another example, like in the New Testament, Romans chapter 7, famous passage, things I want to do that I don't do. Paul talks about there was a time he was alive apart from the law, but when the law came, it hit him and he died. And he remembers the passage, thou shalt not covet. And he was cut to the heart. Most commentators have always thought that was his bar mitzvah, time of age at 13, where a Jewish boy is now responsible to the Torah, to the law. And so now he has to take the responsibility of the law upon himself. And that Paul is referring to this bar mitzvah, to where now he is responsible.
Like age of accountability.
Age of accountability. And he reads, thou shalt not covet. And it's interesting that he says, thou shalt not covet. Someone might say, well, Paul was meaning that he, was a covetous man, but he wasn't a man. I mean, if it was his bar mitzvah, he was 13 years old. So what was he coveting? What do young boys covet? 13-year-old puberty boys covet. Well, they covet their neighbor's car, their neighbor's house, their neighbor's motorcycles, their neighbor's skateboards, their neighbor's wife. You know what I mean? And so I tend to think, like, when I was 13, it's like, and, what did I covet? And it wasn't to be a powerful religious man, or, what I mean? Or anything like that. But I did covet my neighbor's wife. I did see her as pretty. I did see that girl from down the road is awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
And it's like, I did covet that bike. I covet, you know what I mean? There was things I coveted, and I just think, like, Paul, it's interesting that he says at 13, thou shalt not covet hit me. And
it's funny that you say, because it reminds me of my neighbor.
Really?
Well, there was a lady across the street. She was like older than, I was like 13. She had to probably be like 25. And and she was just like always like nice to me and stuff. And I don't know. This was like the 80s, man. Things got real.
Real.
She seemed almost like kind of flirtatious with me, because I'm tall.
Yeah.
And at 13, I'm already like, people were thinking I'm like 16, 17 because I was so tall.
Yeah.
And she kind of like, I felt like yeah, kind of flirt with me,
Yeah.
innocently, not nothing like gross or anything. Kind of like innocently, but like kind of like tease me, and I'm like, haha,
Yeah,
like,
watch 80s movies.
yeah,
You could totally
exactly.
see it.
And I was like, yeah, she's no, I'm like a kid, like, but like I feel like she kind of likes me, like she tussles my hair and like, oh, you're so cute, aren't you? I bet you like all the girls like you, I
Yeah,
bet, and
yeah,
stuff like that. And
and
I'm like,
in the 80s, the 20-year-olds are all in dolphin shorts, and you
yeah,
know what I mean.
yeah,
I mean, high rising shorts and everything.
yeah. I'm just having all these memories
Yeah,
now.
totally. But I'm just saying that when you're 13 and you're going through a bar mitzvah and you're thinking, oh man, dude, I'm going to be held accountable to thou shalt not covet,
Yeah.
and what am I coveting at 13? Man, it's like girls. You know what I mean? That's what I'm coveting, and that kind, and that's how my brain works. Where I think, no, what Paul's maybe alluding to is that he realized, as he was a young teenager, that thou shalt not covet killed him.
Uh-huh.
That if he was going to be judged by coveting, he saw covetousness all in him.
Yeah.
And the desires for all the things that a young kid, desires,
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. So I tend to see things that way, but then I have those experiences where I see that,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, for some reason, there's obviously a population of the Christian church where for some reason people don't see that. They just don't. They haven't maybe experienced it, or they haven't wanted to delve into that
Mm-hmm.
topic in their world. Maybe they did experience things, but they really have avoided, like going in that direction in their life personally, and going, hey, how has, what is the sexual relationship my mom has had with people affected me? How is the sexual relationship that my dad has had in people's life affected me? You know what I mean? Really
Mm-hmm.
think through it.
Yeah.
So, and then they go, hey, how was I affected by sexual conduct in junior high or elementary school or things like that? I mean, I grew up in a culture where I would get busted for grabbing chicks,
Mm-hmm.
in elementary school.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Remember, Flip Up Friday.
all the time,
You're supposed to run around and flip up the girls'
all the
dresses at
time, dude,
school.
and all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I got so busted for stuff like that, and super perverted actions, you
Uh-huh.
know, and and what we read in the Bible is that all of our sin is nothing's new, and
Mm-hmm.
right, all sin, all of our temptations are similar, common to human beings. So it's not like there's anything new there.
Yeah.
So I kind of go, hey, nothing's new. It happened to them. It happened to us. Michael Tait, got, he was definitely a part of, participating in drinking and doing drugs, and other adults who were a part of drinking and doing drugs. And, and Lot, dude, when you're drinking and doing drugs, even with your daughter,
Yeah.
if you're drinking and doing stuff, then, other things happen,
Yeah.
and there's a responsibility there. But, I'm super blessed. I love that he, has been, just dealing with recovery and working on things,
Mm-hmm.
and cause that's where it's at. Um, to me, like, knowing, just being open, like, hey, I do struggle with this thing. I struggle with pornography. It's a pull to me. I struggle with drinking. It's a pull to me. I think that's half the battle, is just kind of, you got to say it.
Yeah. I still think the saddest thing to me in the article was about how all these people in this, Christian music scene, like we're okay with this happening. Like, kind of like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I find that completely sad because there's like people going to these concerts and like God's meeting. They're having like real experiences with God
Yeah.
at this concert.
Yeah.
God's using this music to touch these people and move them and have these experiences, and to find out there's like all this stuff going on behind the scenes, and people are kind of like, yeah, it's part of it. Sometimes you got to turn a
Yeah.
blind eye.
I know, which is so weird, right? And I think, like, God uses Judah. God uses Tamar.
Mm-hmm.
God uses Gideon. God uses Samson. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, some of these people are in the Hall of Fame of faith, man, of all
Yeah.
things. And it's so interesting that God can not only use people but redeem them.
Mm-hmm.
save them. And they still, even in their salvation, they're not, um, they're still in their stuff.
Yeah.
They and I wonder how much of that goes on even today within the church.
Oh, tons. I
Yeah.
mean, just think about like all the, children being abused and stuff, and the church wants to kind of
Yeah.
cover it up instead of like
Yeah.
dealing with the repercussions and
Yeah.
being like, here, we got to take this black eye.
Yeah, because then there's wheat and tares,
Uh-huh.
and we know that there's going to be wheat and tares. Hey, don't pull up the tares. In the end, God will put them. The judgment comes. They're going to get pulled up. We know that there's going to be deceivers too. So we know there's going to be people that deceive and come in that are wolves in sheep clothing. So you have a lot of things going on. You have people that are truly redeemed, that are just biffing it. Then you have people, that are, they're tares, and they're growing amongst the wheat, but they are not the real deal. And then you have people from without that come within and deceive and pervert. And you even see, I was thinking too, even in the book of Revelation, when you look at the churches that Jesus is writing, you see all their sexual problems going on in some, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's stuff going on in those churches, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, it's like these aren't new issues, it's like, I'm just glad that Michael Tait seems like he is the real deal. He is the wheat.
Yeah.
And he understands grace, he understands mercy, and he also understands responsibility and God's righteous judgment. And I found that very King David-like in his confession. So
yeah, because he didn't have to say nothing. He could have just sent his representatives out. And these are gross accusations, and they're all untrue and unfounded.
Yeah.
And the only thing he said, he's like, he's like, no, I did all that stuff. He's like, I'd argue some of the finer details about how things went down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was drinking. I was living a double lifestyle. I was, doing drugs.
Yeah.
I struggle with homosexuality.
Yeah.
He was open about all that. So I think, yes, that's a good sign that he is a genuine believer.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And we have to always be on our guard as Christians, as far as, not be pessimistic, not be, like what's, the idea of just always like quick to judge people. And we have to be patient. And, with people, and I hope people are patient with me.
Yeah.
I want to be judged by mercy, and so I want to give mercy, but also be perceptive. As a shepherd, as a pastor, you're always balancing that. Is this person, really, want God, or have they come into the church and they really want to just wreak havoc, on the body of Christ? And cause problems and, all that stuff. And so
what is one of the things you use to make those judgments?
Much counsel, I think that's why the Bible stresses, with counsel comes wisdom is, you don't make it alone. You have to get with other people and, go over the situation, talk about it, pray about it, and then confront it. And that's what helps you is when you confront the situation, then the way people react will tell the
Speak
tale.
volumes.
Yeah, it's like if people get in the flesh and they get all mad and they just blow up some more, then I think this person's this is a wolf.
Yeah, there should always be like a heart of restoration, and I feel like a lot of times we don't have that in the church.
Yeah,
it's like we just want to write him off now. Michael Tait, we're done with you. Like, burn all his CDs. Let's forget this guy. Instead of being like the church and like, no, we need to like come alongside this brother and pray for him and see if there can be restoration. Is he really repentant? Is he struggling? Like,
totally.
But too often we just, because even the article is written by supposedly I'm not familiar with them, but they said they're like a Christian para organization or something.
Yeah, maybe.
So, but they didn't really seem. They just seemed to be, like I said, out demonizing this guy instead of being like, we all sin. Obviously, these guys that this happened to, they were sinning themselves. They were sinning. And it wasn't handled in a very Christian way. It seemed more like a tabloid article almost.
Yeah,
kind of like a smear campaign.
I could see that. It's a good point that they are all adults. and everything like that. But anyway, I'm glad we got a chance to touch base on that.
Yeah, me too, man.
Yeah, it was a good podcast. Some good stuff, man.
Yeah, man, it's been a while.
I know. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, cool.